Today I am reading from the book Spirit of Homeopathy, book written by Dr. Rajan Sankaran, Part 1 Philosophy, Chapter number 8, The Evolution of Homeopathy. Hahnemann's famous experiment of cinchona bark was the beginning of a new method of the treatment. It took place in the year 1790. Hahnemann discovered that cinchona, which was famed for its curative power on malaria, when taken by him in a healthy state, produced in him symptoms similar to malaria. I gave him the clue that drug can cure in the sick what they can cause in the healthy. From this idea, Hahnemann started testing several drugs on himself and some voluntary to ascertain what effect they could produce on healthy people, so that he could use these drugs when he found similar effect in sick people. These testings are called proving. Initially, Hahnemann employed crude, means material doses of drug for the proving and treatment under the label local action of the drug. In 1796, Hahnemann published his first treatise called Essay on New Principle for Ascertaining the Curative Power of Drug. On reading this essay, it is evident that Hahnemann's ideas were far from fully mature at this age. He believed that drugs act merely on the organ and cause functional and structural changes locally. He tries to use this new idea in relation to the individual organ. Let me quote some example. Since conine produces pain in the gland, it may be the best remedy for the painful induration of gland and the cancer. One quotation in particular is worth citing in the page number of 271, third paragraph of all quotations in the chapter are from Hahnemann's in lesser writing. Means this quotation was written in lesser writing. The water hemlock, means cicuta virosa, cause among other symptoms violent burning in the throat and stomach, tetanus, tonic cramp, true epilepsy, all diseases for which we require efficient remedies, one of which it may be hoped will be found in this powerfully acting root in the hand of the cautious but bold physician. Here you can see the Hahnemann considered tetanus, cramps and epilepsy all as a disease. He doesn't as yet seem to be clear about the difference between the terms disease and the symptom of the disease. He also says coffee produces and therefore cure headache. Again, the distinction is not made between curing the symptom and curing the patient. He also tries to explain the drug effect in pathological terms. For example, belladonna produces torpor of the lymphatic system, and conium produces excitant actions on the lymphatic system. Though he mentioned the term totality of the symptom, yet they mainly refer to a single symptom as being caused and cured by a drug. At the page 281, paragraph number 2, he says, in a lesser writing, he says, the pansy violet, means violeta tricolor, at first increased cutaneous eruptions and thus shows its powers to produce skin disease and consequently to cure the same effectually and permanently. He uses this word skin diseases, which become an anathema to him in his later work, where he insists that there are no skin diseases but diseases which manifest on the skin. In 1796, we see him still trying to fit the proving symptoms into the nosological pattern. For example, he says of nux vomica, it may be useful in apoplexy or intermittent fever. He first used nux vomica in case of dysentery with cramps in the abdomen. It is obvious that his proving were in a crude doses. At that time, Hahnemann also used for treatment fairly large dose of the drugs. However, we have to admit that even at this early stage in the various example he has given, he has mostly referred to the nervous and mental effects of the drugs and only sometime to the organ affinity. Another thing that is evident from this article is that in the initial proving, he was not particular in recording the exact symptom. He was content to ascertain the broad effect of the drug like headache, cramps, fever, etc. He also talked a lot of pathological effects of the drug. For example, arsenicum diminished the tone of muscle fiber by diminishing the proportion of cohesion and coagulability in the blood. Though he mentioned vital power, he is vague about it. For example, he says, thus arsenic generally seems to kill more by extinguishing the vital power and sensitivity that's by its corrosive and inflammatory power. In this way, Hahnemann attempted to study the pathology of drug in crude doses and try to guess the pathology in which they may prove beneficial by similarity of action. Now another subtitle is Discovery of Potentization. In 1798, we see Hahnemann still prescribed drug in crude doses. In an epidemic of fever, he prescribed arnica in a few grain and ignatia from 2-3 grain. Then in 1801, in an article on cure and prevention of the scarlet fever, Hahnemann given the first hint of a new process of drug preparation which is now called potentization. In page number 375, paragraph 1, he mentioned, for external use, I empower a tincture formed by adding 1 part of finely pulverized crude opium to 20 parts of the weak alcohol, letting it stand in a cool place for a week, and then shaking it occasionally to promote the solution. For internal use, I take a drop of this tincture and mix it intimately with 500 drops of diluted alcohol and 1 drop of this mixture likewise with other 500 drops of the diluted alcohol, shaking the whole well. Of the diluted tincture of the opium, which contain in every drop 1/5 millionth part of grain of the opium. 1 drop given internally was amply sufficient in the case of the child of a 4 year of age and 2 drop in that of child of the 10 years to remove the above state. From these quotations, it is evident that Hahnemann considered the diluted drug as being a weaker. It was yet to strike him that he stumbled upon one of the greatest discoveries in science. The reason for this abrupt change is not very clear. The commonly held view is that Hahnemann wanted to diminish the toxicological effect of the drug and was experimenting to find out dilution upon which drug could act beneficially. This state of affair continued until the year of 1810, when the first edition of his book, The Organon, was published. In The Organon, there is no mention of the word dynamic or even a potency. He does, however, mention the term vital force. In 1809, he wrote a brilliant article which was entitled as Observation on the 3 current method of the treatment. In this article, he clearly differentiates between treatment of the name, treatment of the symptom, treatment of the cause. He asks us to prescribe for the cause of the disease, not on their symptom, nor on their names. Another subtitle is Dynamic Concept of the Disease. The year between the 1809 and 1813 wrought crucial as they witness a change, means evolution in Hahnemann's thinking. In 1813, he wrote in the spirit of homeopathical medical doctrine mentioned below. Hence, it is obvious that disease excited by the dynamic and special influence of morbific injurious agent can be described only as a dynamical derangement of the vital character of the organism. Two of the most important paragraphs contain this statement. Now, as the condition of the organism and its healthy state depends solely on the state of the life which animate it, in like manner, it follows that the altered state, which we term disease, consists in the condition altered originally only in the vital sensibility and functions, irrespective of all chemical and mechanical principle. In short, it must consist in an altered dynamic condition, a changed mode of being, whereby a change in the property of the material component part of the body is afterward affected, which is necessarily consequence of the morbidity, altered condition of the living whole in every individual case. Another paragraph was, moreover, the influence of morbific agent, which for more part excite from without the various maladies to us, is generally so invisible and so immaterial that it is impossible that it can be immediately either mechanical, disturb or derange the component part of our body in their arrangement and substance, or infuse any pernicious acrid fluid into our blood vessels, whereby the mass of our humors can be anemically altered and destroy, an inadmissible, improbably gross invention of mechanical mind. The exciting cause of the disease rather act by means of their special properties on the state of our life, means on our health, only in dynamic manner, very similar to spiritual manner, and in as much as they first derange the organ of the higher rank and of the vital force. There occur from this state of derangement, from the dynamic alternation of the living whole, an altered sensation and an altered activity of each individual organ and of all of them collectively, whereby there must also be necessary secondarily occur alteration of the juices in our vessels and secretional abnormal matter, the inevitable consequence of the altered vital character, which now differ from the healthy state. These were the two paragraph Hahnemann wrote. Now again under the title, two stage in the disease. These two paragraphs are most significant in terms of practice. Here Hahnemann split up disease into two stages. Initial disturbance of organ of the higher rank and of the vital force, and the above result in altered activity of other organ of the body. These quotations represent a very great change in Hahnemann's thinking, whereas you remember that in 1796 he had said Ipecac exert an action on the nerve of the stomach and Viola produce the skin disease. Example, drug act locally. He was now saying that drug cannot act locally, they act through the center. How did these changes in the thinking come about? To me, it seems obvious that these changes is coincidentally with his discovery that drugs act even when diluted beyond a point where they can have an physiological or toxicological properties. Not only do they act, but with each dilution and suction, the effect of the drugs gets stronger and stronger. If drugs still act in this dilution and so powerfully too, then how do they act or where do they act? At about the time Hahnemann was discovering the law of similar, there was a resurgence of the vitalistic idea in the medical thought. The vitalistic idea traced its origin very far back and had been coming up from time to time. The whole idea is of the presence of force of life. The presence of this force differentiates the living from the non-living, and it is this force that tries to keep the organism healthy, that unites, controls, and coordinates the various functions of various organ and system. This force can neither be seen nor measured, but can be judged only from its effect. Now, under the label the vital force, disease is not an affection of the organ, but a disturbance in the vital force. As long as the vital force is in control, no part of the body can be affected. This idea of the vital force is opposed to the still popular concept which implicates individual organ as the cause of the sickness and so lead to practice of trying to make change in them or even sometimes removing them. It is only recently that medical thought is slowly changing and evolving into the holistic concept of the man and his health, which means it is gradually realizing that man falls sick as a whole and that all the organ systems of the body are intricately connected to each other, and the body itself has a tremendous recuperative potential. Medical philosophy is coming more and more to the conclusion that the mere treatment of the symptoms and organ can only help temporarily, and that it is the healing power of the body as a whole that has to be enhanced. But it is at the loss to know how this can be done. In 1796, the popular medicine was very much worse than it is today. Bloodletting and such other harmful treatment were very popular, but even at that time some medical philosophers were actively considering the idea of existence of a vital force. One of them was Rayleigh and published in Hoofland Journal in the 1796 an article entitled Dissertation of the Life Force. In the same year, Hahnemann had published in the same journal his first major treatise entitled as Essay on the New Principles. There is no doubt that Hahnemann must have read this article and probably even agreed with it, but in 1796 he had still not discovered the significance of the potentization. The idea of vital force must have remained in the back of his mind until 1810 when he started questioning how and where potentized drug works. Being also a chemist, he must have known that beyond a particular dilution there is hardly any material of the drug left. Probably he must have reasoned that drug once diluted have an effect on a different level. The only other level than the material one could be that of energy. So these drugs, when diluted and suction must be liberating some energy or the force. Since one force can interact with another, this must be a force in the body on which these drugs must be acting. This force can be no other than the vital force. As a corollary, since drugs produce artificial diseases, disease should be understood as a disturbance of these forces. This was the shift in Hahnemann's thinking from considering the disease as a material effect to regarding it as a disturbance of the vital force. From this time onward, he would not refer to drug as having a local organ effect. From then on, the whole level of homeopathy changed. Another subtitle is the dynamic action of the drug. By 1813, had come to the conclusion that the curative action of the drug does not lie in its local organ effect, but rather in its dynamic effect. Example, it is effect on the vital force. The initial disturbance, he said, is the organ of the higher rank. What he means was the vital force act primarily through certain controlling organ system. The drug disturb the vital force producing functional disturbance of this system, and it is only through this that the drug produce local effect on various organs. Hahnemann did not exactly define which the organ of the higher rank are. It is reasonable to assume that Hahnemann is referring to this organ system which have a controlling influence on the rest of the body, and whole disturbance produce a general effect on the whole organism. Which could these organ systems be? In other general effect on the whole organism, in other words, we can say which are the organ system whose disturbance produce a generalized effect. With our present medical knowledge, we can identify 4 such organ systems. The mind, the disturbance of which can produce far-reaching effect on the heart, lung, and almost every single part of the body. For example, when we are frightened, there is a palpitation, breathlessness, sweating, trembling, increased frequency of urination, etc. And second one is nervous system, disorder of which produce various type of sensation, pain, sensitivity, etc. in various organ and part of the body. Third one is the endocrine system. We know that the disturbance of the endocrine system, means increase or decrease of hormone, can produce a change in the various part of the body. For example, the growth hormone can produce change in the bones, etc. The male and female hormones produce change in the in the puberty and in the menopause. Cortisol can also produce several change in the system. And fourth one is the immunological system. The disturbance of this function can result in allergic and autoimmune disorder, as well as the tendency to recur infection in several parts of the body. And next chapter we will understand, I read PNE axis. Thank you.